What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode 161 of the Creativ Rise podcast. So glad you were here today. We're going to be talking about how to grow your business through the power of just understanding how to sell something even if you haven't done it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a really cool topic because I've experienced this a lot in my own career. I've jumped from thing to thing to thing, not necessarily like industry-wise, but like different services within that industry through the last decade of me being self-employed. And there's been multiple times where I've had opportunities to make some money doing something I actually am excited to do, yet I've just never done it before.
Yeah.
And there's been times when that has stunted me from doing it. And there's been times where I've actually done things to get through that. And we're going to talk about that today because that's something we all face.
Yeah. And I specifically have completely shifted industries in my creative career. I was in the wedding space and then fully shifted into the brand space. And there's a lot of like insecurity or like things that stop you from actually doing that jump, especially if you've never done it before. And so I've lived that, Joey has lived that. So we kind of put our heads together. What are 3 tried and true ways that you can start working in something that you've never done before, and specifically how you can sell something that you've never done before. So we're really excited about that. But we just got back from Alberta. We were up in Calgary speaking at an event for Socality. It was so much fun. We had a blast to be with creatives in person. It was just so refreshing, so cool. And then we went to Banff I can't even say it. Banff. We went to Banff for a day. And that was a blast. We had so much fun. So
it was great. It was a great trip. We actually got to see some people from Creativ Rise up in Calgary because there's a lot of you guys that actually come to listen to the podcast and then go through the mastermind that are from the Alberta area. So it's fun to see a couple of you guys.
Shout out.
If we didn't get to see you, we're so sorry. I would love to see you next time we come on up. It was such a short trip. But let's jump into today's episode. But before we do that, here's what's really important, guys. We have a huge announcement. We have not said this yet. This is the first time we're announcing this. We have a new live workshop coming to you completely free. Our gift to you, February 15th. So have your little Valentine's Day. Go out for dinner. Do the,
girls' night.
Yeah, or have a girls' night, a little Galentine's or whatever you guys call it.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Valentine's Day, hit it off, have a blast. But the second Valentine's Day is done, it's go time, baby. We're having an amazing free workshop called Sell Like a Six-Figure Creator. We're going to be teaching you how to master sales as a photographer and filmmaker. So talking about that on today's episode, but we're also going to be doing an entire free workshop on it, going really in depth on these 3 things. Number 1, how to sculpt a 6-figure offer, because you cannot get better at sales if you're selling the wrong things. We're going to teach you how to sell the right thing. Number 2, 5 sales secrets that actually help you land more deals. And then we're going to end it with a sales call demo, literally going to bring somebody up and get them to pitch us, like sell us on their thing. And then we're going to flip it around and we're going to sell them on their thing. And we're going to learn from the differences. And we're obviously going to do Q&A. If you've ever been on one of these live workshops with us, we always do like 40 minutes of Q&A if we can. So maybe 40 to an hour. We're definitely going to do that. So you do not want to miss this. Completely free. All you got to do is go to creativrise.com/sales and you can register for free. Yeah. Again, February 15th. I don't even know if I said the time. 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. That means all you Australians, all you Kiwis, all the way on the other side of the world, you guys can attend. It's going to be in the morning for you. All you Americans or Canadians, it is going to be at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. Or if you're on the East Coast of North America, that is obviously, like 7:30 Pacific or 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And then if you're in Europe, it's like 1 or 2 a.m.
It's an all-nighter for you.
But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be such a great night. It's going to be incredible. We are going to bring the value as much as we can. It's like, if you've never been on one of these before, it's like listening to the podcast, but way more engaging. You can actually engage with us, and typically the quality of content is just even better because we have, like we can actually like bring up visuals and show things, right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's cool. It's not just an audio format or a video format, I guess. So we're really excited. Again, creativrise.com/sales, and you can register for free there. And about sales, let's talk more about sales right now.
Let's jump into it.
Let's jump into it.
If you are somebody who's, again, trying to sell something you've never sold before, whether you're a wedding photographer trying to get into the brand space, whether you're a brand photographer trying to get into selling short form videos, or maybe you've only worked with brands on like one-off projects and you want to start selling to like maybe professionals like lawyers, and you want to do like, hey, I want to do monthly content for you that's educational, it's going to drive more traffic into your business. If you're someone who's trying to sell something you've never sold before, this is 3 tried and true ways in order for you to be able to do that. So Joey, kick us off.
Let's do it. So the first objection we hear when somebody says, or even, it's not even just we hear, I've said this before. You've probably said this before too, right? First objection that we as creatives have when it comes to, hey, there's opportunity here, but I've never done it before, therefore I don't know if I can do it, is, well, I can't sell that job because I have never done it before. I don't have results, or I don't have testimonials, or I don't have a plan. Like, I can't tell somebody I've done it before because I
Yeah.
haven't done it before. I don't want to lie to them or anything. And we're not saying you do any of those things.
Yeah.
What we are saying is there is a way to give a company or a bride confidence that you would be phenomenal at doing the job despite having ever done the job. The first tip we'd love to give you is to use case studies. Now, Joey, how do I build a case study if I've never done it? Well, a case study doesn't have to be your own work. This is what's cool about a case study. You can actually go and gather information and data or gather results and experiences from what somebody else has done. You don't claim it as your own. You just say, hey, I'm not here to sell myself. I'm here to sell the results of what you're going to get if you work with me, right? So, hey, let's say I've never shot a wedding before. I've actually shot like 2 weddings. So I'm still kind of in this boat, right? I'm not a big wedding guy. I was in the commercial side. Let's say I was trying to get into more weddings. All of a sudden I woke up in the middle of the night tomorrow and I'm like, I feel like I need to go shoot weddings for the rest of my life. What would be my first step? Well, probably gathering data, gathering, some content on why getting your wedding captured is so, so important, right? And how to do that in a really effective way. So a case study, number one, does not have to be your own work. Reference whose work it is, always do that, but you don't have to claim it. You can use somebody else's work to show the result of what happened. So that's number one. Number two is a case study doesn't have to pitch you, it has to pitch the results because people don't buy you, they
This is
buy the
huge.
results, right? So this is really important, guys. I have a story of even doing this. I remember going into a meeting with a company. I think I've shared a little bit of this on the podcast before, like maybe a year and a half ago, but I went into a meeting when I was a teenager for a client who wanted to get a new video for the company. They were a B2B company and they're like, hey, we saw another video you did. We wanted to bring you in because we want to talk about getting a video done by you. And I asked the question, well, cool, why do you want a video, right? Because again, I'm not here to sell myself. I'm here to sell the results. I need to figure out what outcomes they're trying to figure out. So I was like, hey, why do you want a video? And they said, oh, because we want, more drivers for our business. They're a transport company. And I said, well, great. How is a new video going to get you more drivers? They said, well, I think it will just make us look more legit. I said, absolutely, it will, 100%. Now, where are you going to put that video? They're like, oh, we'll post it on our Facebook and have it on our website. I said, well, how many people visit those places, every day that are your ideal candidate for drivers? And they go, well, yeah, I don't know, not really that many, I guess. And I'm like, okay, well, then the video is definitely a piece you need, but it's going to show your company culture, all that stuff. But, if no one's seeing the video, it still doesn't help you solve the problem. So on the spot, I was like, what if I can sell them on a package to help run a lead campaign for them on Facebook, because that's where all their truck drivers hang out when they're at truck stops. It's on Facebook talking to each other. What if I can run some type of advertising campaign that advertises the opportunity to work at this transport company to these truckers so they can actually reach truckers automatically with an automated system? And I started talking about the idea and they're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm going, great. They want me to do this. Now, how do I close this? Because they're asking a bunch of questions about it. Well, I just pulled up all this data online in the meeting about how advertising on Facebook and Instagram can lead you towards your audience. And I just showed them. I presented them with a case study, a live case study while I was in the meeting. So I walked into that job probably for like a $3,000 video, a $2,500 to $3,000 video as a teenager. And I walked out with a retainer for 6 months. That was a lot more expensive than what I had originally went in for. The only reason I was able to do that because I had confidence in pitching something I'd never done before simply by using data and simply by showing examples of how other people in the industry or different industries even were using the method I was talking about. Didn't have to say, hey, I've done this before. I literally had never done it. I just said, here's what I can do for you. Here's how I'm going to do it for you. And here's the results you're going to get, right? I created a case study and presented it to them live. So they went on to take that deal. I literally went home and I called up a friend of mine who I know ran a marketing agency that did ads. And I said, bro, I need you to jump on the phone with me, teach me everything you know, because I just signed a deal to do this and I've never done it before, right? So again, I used a case study to help sell work I've never done before. And it ended up working out really well.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be super detailed. It's not like you need to know the exact conversion rate someone
No,
gets
no,
on their
no, no.
ads. It can just be simply bringing up a competitor that they have that is doing it, that looks like they're being successful. Like, let's say it is that lawyer like example of like you want to do short form videos for this law firm, and you bring up another lawyer who's doing that on Instagram and is obviously growing. Someone's going to look at that and they're going to get that instant competitiveness and be like, yeah, we should do that. Like,
Mm.
I want to be better than that guy, right? You can even just bring up examples in the
Mhm.
industry like that and literally show them it doesn't have to be super
Yeah.
complicated.
I mean, even a wedding example. Let's say you want to get into like
Super 8
adventure, yeah, or like adventure sessions or elopements or like adventures elopements,
yeah.
It's like if you've never been to the national park you want to shoot at and you've never been the one to go actually out with the bride and groom and shoot that crazy elopement, you can still use that content and information as an example in a case study. Again, reference whose work it is, but you can say,
Yes.
hey, here's what I am thinking of doing. Here's a mood board. Here's how
Yeah.
I think it's going to make you feel. Here's what you're going to aim to get. Here's the result of how this is going to make you feel 20 years from now, knowing that you got to elope in the top of this national park you love, right? Like
Yeah.
you can do it in all the industries, right?
Oh,
Which
of
is really, really
course.
cool. So that is point number one, is that in order to sell something you've never done before, make sure you use case studies, because it's not only going to prove it to you that it works, but it's also going to prove to the client that what you are going to take them through, the journey you're going to take them through, is actually going to get them the outcomes they want, which is going to get you hired.
Yeah. And if you want to book more jobs that you have not done before, you need to educate your client,
And
right?
and talking about objections for each of these, right? So like the objection for this would be, well, Christy, I can't go sell that job because I don't even know that much about it.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. So what you want to do in this scenario is you want to, first of all, educate yourself about what exactly you need to do in order to give them that result. Because again, you're selling the result, you guys. You're not selling yourself, you're selling the result they are going to get. Therefore, they've got a problem and they are looking for answers. And if you have those answers, that breeds so much confidence. And
100%.
we love this analogy. We've used this on the podcast before. But imagine there are two doctors. Let's say you have a broken wrist, you know you need surgery, it hurts like heck, and you're like, I gotta go to the doctor's office. Let's say there are two different doctors. The first doctor comes into the room, and they're like, older doctor, they've been doing this for years, they're very experienced, but they walk in, they maybe look at your x-ray silently for like a minute or two. They look at you and they're like, okay, so you have a broken wrist. Yeah, so come in next Wednesday for a surgery. We'll fix it up. We'll see you next week. You'd probably be like, all right, like this doctor's
Cool.
done a lot. Cool, let's do it. However, let's say another doctor comes into the room after that doctor. They walk over to your x-ray, they explain exactly where the break was or where the tear is, and they go, hey, here's what's going on in your wrist right now, which is probably why you feel X, Y, and Z, right? What are you feeling in your wrist right now? You guys talk and converse about what the problem is, and then the doctor goes, okay, sweet. So actually, here's what we're gonna do. We are going to put you in a temporary cast right now so that everything doesn't get worse off than it is. So we're gonna put you in a temporary cast. We are then gonna have you come into surgery tomorrow. I'm gonna do this and this and this to fix this. Now, a lot of traditional old school doctors might only fix this part, but I wanna go a step further and fix this as well to make sure you don't have long-term damage in your wrist. How does that sound? And you're like, that sounds awesome. And they're like, great, okay, we will see you then. Here's what you can do. And then also, here is a 3-step recovery plan that you should do afterwards with some PT. Here's the thing, you get full mobility back in your wrist, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say they just educate you so much on what is going on with your wrist, with not only that, but also a plan on how to recover well so you can get the most mobility back in your wrist. Which doctor are you gonna go with? Some of you might be like, I still wanna go with doctor number 1. But many of you will go, actually, I wanna go with doctor number 2. They sound like they're super educated. I understand what's happening more. They just seem like they care more about my outcome than the first doctor. So let's go with doctor number 2. And the only reason you're going to do that is because they have educated you and also have given you a solid plan on how to move forward. So if you are someone who's like, I'm new, how do I get someone to trust me? The first thing you gotta do is educate yourself so that you feel really confident on the solution that you are providing. And then you need to communicate that to the client. So let's say like you're, again, a wedding photographer moving into wanting to work with brands. If you come in and just say, I'll just give you 30 images, they're gonna be like, okay, like maybe, but like, have you done this before? They're gonna start asking you questions. Where if you come in and go, hey, so here's what we're gonna do. I know that you wanna grow online with your brand, so I'm gonna give you a 3-step plan of how we are going to be able to solve this so that you can get the results you want. Number 1, we're gonna have a strategy call. It's gonna be only 30 minutes of your time. However, this is gonna be so important for me to understand exactly what you need out of this shoot. So we're gonna talk about, a mood board. We're gonna talk about the products that I'm gonna be shooting, the do's and don'ts of how I should handle your products, and then along with everything else that we need for strategy to make this thing a total hit. Number 2, I will go off and I will shoot this for you all hands on deck. Like, you will not have to do anything for this. I will do it all for you. White glove service. Number 3, I will deliver your images as well as a guide on how to use it properly on your socials so that it is just primed for growth. That person's going to feel so much confidence in you, even if you've never done before, but because you have a plan, which is so important. So make sure you educate yourself. You give them a 3 to 4 step plan that's super simple that they can understand, and watch yourself just gain more confidence from your ideal clients.
That's super important. We actually just wrapped up a contract that we had this past year in 2023, just ended it earlier this year, and it was a pretty large contract, and there by no means was agencies, companies out in the world that this person even knew of, this company knew of, that were probably more qualified.
Totally.
AKA, they've been in the game longer than us to do what we were getting hired to do. Yet we were the new guys. You know, we'd done basically everything in this contract that we had to act on, we'd done before. We never done it packaged in this way and for this industry, this specific type of client. But we gave them an incredibly clear plan. We educated them for sure on the problems that they were up against if things went wrong, and then the opportunities for the outcomes if things went right. And then they chose us, right? And that was a $70,000+ deal for a few months. Like, guys, this is super important. It is really, really important that you just listen to what Christy just said. It's so crucial to play the role of the doctor, identify what went wrong, and then really make sure that you're educating them on the opportunities to grow or the opportunities to heal something back, to make an impact, and then you give them a plan to actually do that, right?
Yeah.
Killer. You have to do that. That is a great way. And that was number 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so number two is always make sure you educate yourself to then educate them.
Yeah.
And then you give them a plan off the back of that education. That's going to get you hired to do things you've never done before way more often than if you don't do that.
Absolutely. So that is number 2. Number 3, the objection that some people might be dealing with is, I don't think I'm going to get hired because I just don't have enough experience in doing this. Like, I don't have experience. And here's what I want you to think about with, again, landing deals that you've never done before is using your past as leverage. So I did this very specifically when I was shifting from weddings into brands. I was shooting weddings full time, and then I shifted into building a 6-figure brand business. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel like, will they trust me if I'm a wedding photographer trying to shoot commercial work? But then I thought to myself, actually, being a wedding photographer has given me incredible skills in the brand space, even more so than a lot of brand photographers, in my opinion. So if you were in the wedding space...
100%. I'm a brand photographer, and you have lots of skills in the brand space that I just don't have.
Yeah.
What are some of those? Explain them.
So I'll give you 3 that I have pinpointed for myself. And if you are a wedding photographer and you want to get in brands, take these and run with them when you're pitching to
all you male brand photographers. She's outing you right now. I'm included in this.
Okay, so number 1, as a wedding photographer, you are put in so many, you have to make something out of nothing. So you're put in diverse lighting scenarios. A lot of times you have no idea where you're going to be shooting until you are right on the spot, and you have to make it the most epic, beautiful thing that anybody's ever seen, and you're in a parking lot, right? You're always shooting in the middle of the day. You don't have exact lighting, so you learn to be a very diverse creative. You make something out of nothing. You're also shooting people who normally are not models, right? You're shooting regular people who maybe have never been in front of a camera before. So you become an expert on posing non-models into looking like models, right? That's a huge thing. So you're learning to work with talent in a way that brings out the best in them. And you're able to do it also, number 2, quickly. You're used to working on a tight schedule where you have to do things super fast. And to be honest, I've worked with a lot of brand photographers and videographers that do not care about timelines. And the problem with that is oftentimes brands are renting studios, they're renting venues, and there's short amount of time to get a lot of work done in a short period of time. And a lot of people, they just don't know how to work quickly. Whereas wedding photographers, videographers oftentimes know how to work super fast, get what they need, and get out, right?
Yeah, you
so
guys know how to
maximize
maximize the moment and then move on.
Yes.
Right? Which is really cool.
Absolutely. And then number 3, you just learn to be super organized. Because again, the whole day is not necessarily about the photos. It's about keeping on timelines. So think about your past experience, whether it's creative or not. What can you glean from and utilize in order to position yourself as someone who has a unique skill or a skill set or even just a mindset around a project that maybe someone else in the industry doesn't have that you
100%.
can use to your advantage?
And an example for me on this was when I was 20, I think I was about 20, I started to shift my video and photo agency from just video and photo to being more of a full service marketing, branding, photo, video. We're trying to clean house and cover more bases for the clients we were working with. And specifically, I was getting really, really invested into this idea of like brand strategy. And so we built a product called Brand Therapy, where we go into specifically, personal brand businesses that are really large. So people that are doing seven figures, multiple seven figures, big people that you guys have heard of. We go into their businesses and we help them isolate areas of chaos or areas of chaos or confusion in their brand, fix that, really, really pump clarity into that, and then make sure the whole team has got that in order to create better systems and better everything, better brand going forward. Now, not just for personal brands, but for organizations and businesses all over the place. But when I first started to do that, I had to ask myself this question because I was charging like 15 to 20K for the process of this. And this process only takes one day of in-person work. And then it takes about 3 to 4 days of my team going back and forth, designing this new brand identity document that we ended up handing over and helping them integrate into their business. And when you think about that, you're 20 years old. I've never really done this stuff before. How the heck am I going to qualify myself in my own head to be able to pitch this confidently, right? Well, what I had to do was go, okay, exactly what you were just saying, Christy. What makes me as a 20-year-old really set up through the experiences I've had running my business for at this point, like 6 years? What about my experience thus far and even my age right now makes me set up to be a great, great partner for a product like this, for an experience like this, for a brand, for a company, for an organization that maybe somebody who's in their 40s or 50s might not be qualified to do? And I'd ask that question, what makes me different being only been in business for 6 years and I'm 20 years old?
Yeah.
What is advantageous about that? And for me, it was, I'm really young. Therefore, I see things way differently than the people that have been doing this for 25 years do. Number two, my experiences up to this point have been really focused on social, really focused on helping businesses grow online, grow their brands online so they can make more money online, right? Growing their communities, growing their followings. That is something that people that have been doing this for 25 years don't necessarily have as much, maybe even experience doing, because for so long social wasn't a part of the picture, right? So there was all these things that I had to, similar to what Christy said, she had to pull from her wedding career as she was stepping into the brands. What makes her phenomenal to get into brand work because of weddings? I'd ask myself, what makes me phenomenal to get into brand strategy consulting because of my experience running a video and photo agency in the social space, right? So if you think about it long enough, even better if you get some people who know you really well to give you input on it, you will be shocked at how many reasons why you are actually a great fit for something you will pull. You'll find out, which is really cool, right? So it's important that you think about that. So that is number 3. Use your past experience as leverage when you are trying to sell something you've never sold before. Because ideally, your past experience is probably leading you towards being a really good candidate to do something if you've got a cool past experience, right? Now, number 4 is the last one that we're going to give you today. The objection on this is, Joey, I get 1, I get 2, I get 0.3, but I just don't feel like I am confident to do all those things. I don't feel like I'm confident enough to make my own case study. I really don't feel like I'm confident enough to educate myself and then educate a client. Like, I don't feel confident to show up to a meeting and start teaching a client about what might be at risk if they don't do something right. I don't feel confident enough to figure out what my past experiences give me as leverage. Well, number 4 is you have to borrow confidence from other people. This is super important. Now, this is kind of a term that we've coined at Creativ Rise over the past 5 years of doing what we're doing right now, podcasting, running masterminds, all the free stuff. Is borrowing confidence is one of the best ways for you to grow in any arena as a creative. Now, what does borrowing confidence mean? It means if I know you and you are phenomenal at what you do and you're really confident about something and I'm not confident about, why don't I just come a little bit closer to you, learn a little bit from you and what you're doing, and maybe even ask you for some encouragement on where you see that I would do well at this, and you get to take some of your confidence and embed it into me. And then I can run with that, right? Which is cool. So even if I go, I really don't know if this thing's going to work for this client, but I know Christy's been doing it for 5 years and it works every time she does it. I have to borrow that. I need to borrow the fact that she's confident in the result. Let me take that on myself and then let me work as hard as I can to get that result for the client, right? Borrow some confidence. So this is guys, so important when you look at, the difference between a creative who does not borrow confidence from people around them. They isolate themselves in a chamber. They're constantly wondering, am I good enough at this? Am I gonna, be able to be confident enough to pitch this? am I the right person to do this? Am I big enough or cool enough or talented enough to do this? Versus someone who goes, I have no idea if I'm the right person for that. I have no idea if I'm talented, and I have no idea this, and this. But let me get around people who are. That person is going to borrow so much confidence, grow so much quicker, and they're going to be light years ahead of the person who isolates them. So step number 4 to selling something you've never done before is you have to borrow confidence from people who have done it. It's going to really, really fast track
Yeah.
where you're going, right?
And not only just confidence, but also like tactical strategy.
100%.
Like gleaning that, like, okay, I'm in this scenario. Like, I know I need this result, but like, what are the steps in order to get that? Like, what mistakes do I need to not make in order to keep this client or to snag this deal or whatever it is? And the coolest thing is we see this all the time in the creative industry with Creativ Rise. Like, we see people helping other people all the time, whether they're like mastermind grads who have continued on with their pod group and they're like getting on calls together weekly, talking about like, hey, I want to, reach this type of client, or I want to do this type of service. I want to jump into this. And they're helping each other build out an actual plan of how to execute that. And we see that during our 6-week mastermind too. Like, we literally see people come together and be like, I want to do this. And then all of a sudden, all these people just rise up and go, hey, I've done that before. Here's what to avoid. Here's what to do. And here's how you can do it really, really well. And it just fast tracks people's growth. Like, we had 36 businesses in our last mastermind, round 10.
37, I think.
37.
37.
And they made $422,000 in those 6 weeks. And every single person was like, oh my gosh, like, I would have never made the money that I made in this 6 weeks if I was doing this by myself, right? If I was doing this by myself, literally there a girl named Maddie in our last round, she was like, yeah, I was estimating to have made like $12K during the 6 weeks, like before I joined the mastermind. She's like, ended up making over $20,000, like $24,000. She literally doubled the amount of money she was supposed to make during those 6 weeks simply because she joined into the mastermind and was surrounded by people who she could borrow confidence from, borrow strategies from, and push her in order to hold her accountable to do more than she ever thought she could, which was so cool.
I actually just pulled up what she said. It's right here. I actually had it open on another tab.
Oh,
Throughout
sick.
the past 6 weeks, I was flooded with info and goals and have more perspective now on where I see my business going. The accountability pods helped me tremendously to keeping each other motivated and disciplined. I nearly doubled my projected income in the last 6 weeks from $20,000 to
it's more than I
$40,000. With more in the process. Guys, that's insane. 6
Never
weeks,
mind,
she
double what I just
doubled
said.
her projected income from $20,000 to $40,000. With more in the process, would definitely recommend anyone who's looking to grow their business, set refined and realistic goals, and to make a community of other creatives trying to do the same thing. So she's recommending the mastermind is what she's saying there. But guys, this is why we designed the mastermind. The Creativ Rise Mastermind started almost 5 years ago. Now, it has been massively innovated over the last 5 years, but it's still running off the same principles we designed it with back 5 years ago, which is number one, let's build an ecosystem where people get the tips, strategies, and tools they need to build a 6-figure foundation for their business in 6 weeks. I don't want people taking 6 years to find this stuff on the internet, which is what I did. I started my business at 14. It took me till I was 19, 5 years to hit 6 figures because I was doing it alone. I was constantly looking for new ways to market the business and grow the business, but I was not doing it in community. It took me way too long. So we started Creativ Rise in 2019 to go, how do we just shortcut people so they don't have to do what I did? Like, it just took me too long.
Yeah.
I figured all this stuff out now. Why don't we give it to people in 6 weeks rather than what took me 5 years to do, right? Yeah. So you got that. That's number one. The first pillar is the content, the coaching. Number two is the community, which Maddie just touched on. Do not do it alone. If you do it in community with people, you get to borrow confidence from them. You get to borrow the strategies from them. You get to borrow from their wins, borrow from their losses, figure out what went wrong and how you can avoid that, right? And then the third part of the mastermind is the accountability. We literally have built accountability systems in this thing so that you cannot be left behind. You will not be dropped. Like, I hate when creatives buy something. They think it's going to help them grow their business and they never take it, right?
Yeah.
I've actually done that before. I've bought years ago, way back, you would buy a preset pack thinking it's going to help you. And then you click on one thing, this thing doesn't really look that good. Instead of playing around with it and figuring it out, you have no accountability to do so. So you just forget about it, right? Or you buy a course on something that's going to teach you how to do something. No accountability to do it. You don't even open it, right? We've built accountability systems into the mastermind that you cannot get left behind. It is designed to not get left, designed to not leave anybody behind. Our end rate, somebody asked me the other day, how many people actually make it through the mastermind? I say 100%. All 36 or 37 out of the businesses we take always make it to the last call. Guaranteed, because we don't let people drop because of the accountability systems built in there. They actually implement things, which means their business actually starts growing, which means they want to continue to get the support that the mastermind's giving, right? So excited because round 11 is coming up and it's starting March 3rd. Now, if you are new to Creativ Rise, here's how the mastermind works. It is going to be 6 weeks of everything I just mentioned, but how you get into the mastermind, because we only take 35 to 37 businesses. If we would love to take more actually, but we can't, because if we take more, we just would not be able to give every business there the support they deserve, therefore to get them the results and outcomes that they actually came for, right? So it sells out every time. The good news is that. The bad news is that it sells out every time. So in order to get in, you need to get on the wait list. CreativRise.com has the wait list. Get on the wait list. It's a no commitment wait list. Somebody asked me the other day, do I have to pay anything to get on the wait list? Like, no. You just get on the wait list. We give you all the information you need, and then you can make a great decision on if the mastermind is the right vehicle for you this year to grow your business. Yeah. So no commitment wait list. You're going to get all the information. And the key about the wait list is you actually get the application before everybody else does. The waitlist gives you the application before the application goes public, which is important because we get what did we get last year? The last time we ran, it was 80 to 90 applications.
Oh, yeah.
For 36 spots. We just can't take everybody. So if you get on the waitlist, you get early access to apply, which means you're going to get the first chance at a spot.
Yeah.
Very important. You also get $100 off when you do get accepted and then you do hit that enrollment. You also get a couple bonus courses that are really cool, almost $1,000 of value. Outreach templates course, learning how to pitch. The brand strategy course, we just talked about my brand strategy stuff. This is a small piece of teaching some of the stuff that I help companies implement when it comes to brand strategy so they can grow online, have a better, more clear brand. And third, we also then give you the Portfolio to Profit course, which teaches you how to build a website that actually sells. We literally give you a framework to write down your own copy to put on your website and then design everything around it so your website's not just a portfolio of images or videos or whatever it is, but it's actually engineered to sell for your business. So those are awesome benefits you get when you jump on the waitlist and you do enroll. Those are waitlist bonuses. We cannot wait for the next round of the mastermind.
Yeah, so
but
pumped.
Before that even happens, we have a totally free live training for you, a totally free live workshop. Like I said earlier, right, we're going to be talking about sales and how to actually sell better as a creative so you can eventually build yourself a six-figure business. February 15th, right after Valentine's Day, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. We would love to see you there. We're going to teach you how to sell like crazy as a photographer and filmmaker, or an influencer, like a social media manager, whatever you are. Come to that. We'd love to see you there. We love that you guys listen to the podcast and you listen every week. It is so cool, though, when we get to see your faces on a Zoom call. We actually get to see you, and we get to kind of go back and forth with you, right? Do some Q&A, all that stuff. So how you get that, creativrise.com/sales. Did I miss anything?
Nope. I think that's it.
That's it. Well, guys, this has been a really fun episode. If you loved this, share it with a friend.
Yeah.
Hope it was so impactful for you today. Make sure you implement what we just talked about, those 4 steps. Implement those, please. The only way your business is going to grow is not by listening to the show. It's by listening to the show and then taking what we say and implement it so your business can actually grow. So we'll see you next week. We'll see you on the 15th as well.
Yep.
CreativRise.com/sales. It is in the description of the podcast. We'll see you there.